12 years ago, Lily Thompson's best friend vanished during what should have been an ordinary sleepover. Behind the mystery loomed Jake, Emma's older brother, whose unsettling behavior and dark secrets cast a chilling shadow. But when Lily discovered Emma's forgotten diary in the attic, the truth began to surface in ways no one expected. And just listen to how shocking the twist in this drama turned out to be, and why justice ultimately prevailed. The summer of 2011 was supposed to be a carefree season for 15-year-old Lily Thompson. With her blonde hair cascading in soft waves, she was known for her infectious laughter that echoed through the halls of Crestwood High. The anticipation of her best friend Emma's sleepover was palpable. It promised late-night talks, popcorn, and the latest horror movies that would send them shrieking under the covers. However, far beyond the innocent excitement of friendship, Lily's seemingly perfect life concealed a dark undercurrent of tension that few could see. Lily's father, Robert Thompson, was a local police officer. He worked tirelessly to keep the community safe, but he was also a strict parent, plagued by the fear of losing his daughter to the dangers lurking in the world. He had raised Lily to be cautious, instilling in her the importance of being aware of her surroundings. Lily, eager to please, often found herself torn between her father's cautious nature and her own burgeoning desire for independence. That night, as Lily prepared for the sleepover, she felt a whirlwind of emotions. She was excited to be with Emma, but a nagging sense of unease tugged at her. She brushed it off, attributing it to the horror movie trailer they had watched earlier. "It's just a movie," she told herself, forcing a smile as she slipped into her favorite pajamas. Emma's parents greeted Lily warmly when she arrived, and together the girls settled into a cozy corner of Emma's expansive living room, surrounded by blankets and snacks. They talked endlessly about boys, school, and dreams of the future, the laughter punctuating the air. But as the night wore on, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was a feeling that she would later wish she had listened to. The clock ticked past midnight, and the girls decided to venture out into the yard for some fresh air. They stepped outside, the cool breeze dancing around them, and gazed up at the stars. It was a moment of peace, a fleeting escape from the chaos of their lives. But as they made their way back inside, a chilling sensation settled over Lily. She felt as if they were being watched. "Did you feel that?" she whispered to Emma, who was busy scrolling through her phone. "Feel what?" Emma replied, looking up, puzzled. "Nothing," Lily shrugged, trying to shake off the dread. "Let's just go back to the movie." The night progressed, but sleep eluded Lily. She tossed and turned on the air mattress, the weight of her unease pressing down on her. Just as she was about to drift off, the doorbell rang, startling her awake. "Who could that be?" Emma asked, her voice thick with sleep. Lily's heart raced as they exchanged glances. Emma's parents weren't expecting anyone. Curiosity piqued. The girls quietly crept down the stairs and peered through the peephole. To their surprise, they saw a tall figure standing outside in the shadows, obscured from view. "Should we open it?" Emma whispered, her eyes wide with excitement. Lily shook her head, sensing danger. "No, let's just go back upstairs." But before they could retreat, the figure knocked again, this time more forcefully. "Emma, it's me, Jake," the voice called out, belonging to Emma's older brother. He had been out with friends and needed a ride home. Reluctantly, they let him in, and he stumbled into the house, his laughter echoing as he made his way to the kitchen. The girls returned to the living room, trying to shake off the tension that had built in the air. But the sleepover didn't last much longer. Amidst the laughter and chatter, Lily felt the familiar dread seep back in. It was an unsettling feeling that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. As the night dragged on, Lily finally succumbed to exhaustion and drifted off to sleep. The last thing she remembered was the faint sound of laughter echoing in the background, laced with an underlying tension that left her unsettled. When the first light of dawn broke through the curtains, Lily awoke to an empty room. Panic washed over her as she called out for Emma, but there was no response. She hurriedly dressed and made her way downstairs, her heart racing with dread. The house felt eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that made her skin crawl. "Emma!" she called again, but her voice echoed back to her, unanswered. As she stepped into the kitchen, the sight that greeted her made her blood run cold. Emma's parents stood there, their faces pale and drawn, and the realization hit Lily like a punch to the gut. "Where's Emma?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Lily, we can't find her," Mrs. Harris uttered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "She was right here last night." The search began immediately. Neighbors joined in, and the local police were called. Robert Thompson, Lily's father, arrived on the scene, his face a mask of determination, but inside he felt the ice of dread creeping into his heart. He was a protector, yet here was his daughter, terrified, and his own daughter's friend was missing. Days turned into weeks, and the search stretched into months. But hope faded as days passed without a trace of Emma. The media descended upon Crestwood, their cameras capturing the despair of a community desperate for answers. Lily felt lost, her heart heavy with guilt. She had been there. She had seen her friend last. Yet she couldn't remember the details that might help. As the months turned into years, the case grew cold, but Lily's anguish remained fresh. She grappled with guilt and helplessness, haunted by the haunting memories of that night. Her once vibrant laughter was replaced with silence, and she withdrew from her friends, unable to shake the weight of her friend's disappearance. 12 years passed, and the world had moved on, but Lily was trapped in the past, forever marked by the injustice that had stolen her friend. She often found herself wandering the empty halls of Crestwood High, a ghost of her former self. Then one day, fate intervened in the most unexpected way. While helping her mother clean out the attic of their home, a forgotten box caught her eye. Dusty and worn, it called to her like a whisper from the past. Curiosity piqued. She opened it, revealing old photographs, trinkets, and a diary. But it was what lay beneath that would change everything. A small, locked box. Its presence sent a chill down her spine, and as she pried it open, her life would forever alter. Inside, she found secrets that would unravel the mystery of Emma's disappearance, igniting a fire within her, a fire that would lead her on a journey for justice, a pursuit to uncover the truth that had eluded her for so long. And in that moment, the anger began to rise, igniting a determination that would not be extinguished until justice was served. The sunlight poured through the dusty attic window, casting long golden beams across the cluttered space. Dust motes danced in the air, swirling lazily like memories long forgotten. Lily stood before the locked box, her heart thudding in her chest, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through her veins. This moment felt monumental, as if she were on the brink of discovering the key to a door she had long been afraid to open. Tentatively, she knelt beside the box, its faded wood and rusted latch whispering secrets of the past. Her fingers trembled as she traced the grain of the surface, feeling the weight of the years pressing down upon her. It had been 12 years since Emma vanished, but the pain of that night remained crisp in her memory, as if the edges of the experience had not dulled with time. Taking a deep breath, she rummaged through her mind for the memory of the key. It had been a simple, old-fashioned thing, one that Emma had often joked about, saying it held the secrets of their childhood. Lily had dismissed it then, but now it felt like the most significant object in the world. She stood up, dust swirling around her, and moved to the old wooden chest that had been her mother's. After a few moments of searching through the forgotten toys and trinkets, her fingers closed around the cool metal of the key. With renewed vigor, she returned to the box, her heart racing. The key slid into the lock with a satisfying click, echoing through the silence like a gunshot. She hesitated for a moment, her breath caught in her throat. What if she didn't like what she found? What if the contents of the box led her deeper into the darkness rather than to the light she sought? But then she thought of Emma, of the laughter they had shared, and the dreams they had woven together. She had to know. With a deep inhale, she lifted the lid, the creaking sound breaking the stillness of the attic. Inside, she found a jumble of papers, photographs, and small trinkets, each one a fragment of a life that had been abruptly interrupted. Among them lay a faded notebook, the cover adorned with doodles and swirling letters that spelled Emma's name. Lily's heart ached as she lifted it from the box, the familiar weight of it grounding her. She opened the notebook to the first page, the scent of old paper wafting up to meet her, and began to read. Dear Diary, Emma's handwriting flowed across the page, bubbly and bright, just like she had been. I can't wait for the sleepover at Lily's this weekend. We're going to stay up all night and tell ghost stories. I heard the one about the old man who lived in the woods behind Crestwood. They say he still roams the forest at night. Each entry was a glimpse into Emma's world, filled with dreams, fears, and the innocent passions of a girl on the brink of adolescence. Lily felt a lump rise in her throat as she continued reading, losing herself in Emma's thoughts. But as she turned the pages, the tone began to shift. Mom says I shouldn't hang out with Jake anymore. He's been acting weird since he got back from that camping trip. I think he's just stressed about school. But I can't shake this feeling that something's off. I'll talk to Lily about it. She always knows what to say. Lily's breath hitched as she read the words, the memories flooding back. Jake's arrival that night, his eyes shadowed with something she had been too naive to recognize. A chill crawled up her spine. Had Emma sensed something? Had she been warning her? Even then. As she flipped through more entries, a sense of dread settled in the pit of her stomach. Emma wrote about small things, crushes on boys, the pressure of school, and her dreams of becoming an artist. But interspersed among those innocent reflections were mentions of Jake, each one more concerning than the last. Jake keeps saying he wants to show me something in the woods. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It feels like he's hiding something, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. I just wish I could talk to Lily about it. The last entry sent a jolt through Lily. Emma's handwriting became frantic, the letters tumbling over one another. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Jake is different now, and there's something in his eyes that makes me feel uneasy. I wish I could tell someone, but what if they don't believe me? Lily's heart raced as she slammed the notebook shut, the sound echoing in the attic like a thunderclap. The weight of Emma's fear pressed down upon her, and she could almost feel the panic radiating from the pages. She had to confront the truth that had been buried beneath layers of grief and guilt for over a decade. Lily stood up, the box forgotten as she paced the attic, her mind racing. She thought of Jake, his face, the way he had looked that night, both familiar and foreign. Memories flooded back to her, overlaid with the perspective of a girl who had grown up in the shadow of loss. Had she dismissed the signs? Had she ignored Emma's unease because she didn't want to believe that someone she knew could pose a threat? The air in the attic grew thick with tension, her breath coming in sharp bursts. She couldn't ignore it anymore. She had to find Jake. She needed answers. With determination coursing through her, Lily dropped the notebook back into the box and slammed the lid shut. The past had been resurrected, and with it, all the haunting questions that had plagued her for years. She grabbed a flashlight from the corner of the attic, its metal body cool against her palm, and made her way out of the cramped space, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and resolve. As she descended the narrow staircase, the memories of that night flooded back in vivid flashes. The laughter shared with Emma, the innocent excitement of a sleepover, and the sudden shift when Jake had stepped in through the door, a shadow entering their bright world, bringing with him a storm that would forever alter the course of their lives. Once on the main floor, Lily paused in the hallway, her father's office door slightly ajar. The faint sound of his voice drifted through, muffled but unmistakable. He had been consumed by Emma's case for years, poring over old files and reports, searching for any clue that might lead him to her. Lily hesitated, her heart heavy with the thought of confronting her father. Would he see her newfound determination as a betrayal of the memories they shared? Would he understand that this was about more than just Emma now? This was about justice, about giving her friend the voice she had lost. Summoning her courage, she pushed the door open, the creaky hinges announcing her presence. Robert Thompson sat behind his desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and photographs, a battered coffee mug perched precariously at the edge of the clutter. His eyes widened as they met Lily's, a mixture of surprise and concern washing over his face. "Lily," he said, setting down a file, "I wasn't expecting you to be home so soon." "I found something," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "In the attic. It's about Emma." His expression shifted, concern etched deeply into the lines of his face. "What did you find?" She stepped closer, the gravity of her discovery weighing heavily on her shoulders. "Her diary. She wrote about Jake. She was scared of him, Dad. She sensed something was wrong. I think we need to talk to him." The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Robert's jaw clenched as he processed her words, the flicker of old pain igniting anew in his eyes. Lily, you know how delicate this situation is. We can't just confront him without evidence. I know, she replied, her voice rising with a mix of anger and determination. But this is evidence. Emma's words, her fears, they matter. We can't let this go on any longer. I can't keep living with this guilt, thinking I ignored her cries for help. Robert stared at her, the weight of their shared grief hanging between them. Finally, he nodded slowly, a blend of pride and sorrow in his gaze. You're right. We owe it to Emma to find the truth. Lily felt a surge of hope, a flicker of light piercing through the darkness that had shrouded her for so long. Let's do it together. We can face this, together. As they stood in the dimly lit room, the shadows of the past began to shift, revealing a path toward justice. The attic had opened a door, and now it was up to them to step through it, armed with the courage of a friendship that had never truly faded. Together they would seek the truth that had been buried for far too long. The attic was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the single, dusty window set high in the slanted roof. Sunlight filtered through the grime, casting muted beams that danced across boxes and forgotten furniture, remnants of a life that had moved on without Emma. The air felt heavy, thick with dust motes floating lazily in the light. And for a moment, Lily was struck by the stillness, the way it seemed to hold its breath, as if the very walls were waiting for something to happen. As she held the diary in her hands, its worn leather cover felt both comforting and ominous, as if it were a bridge between the past and the present. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, the air thick with unsaid words and unresolved grief, a palpable reminder of the tragedy that had forever altered the fabric of her life. Lily, are you okay? Robert's voice broke through her reverie, gentle yet laced with concern. He stood at the foot of the attic stairs, a figure cloaked in shadow. She turned to him, biting her lip as a wave of emotion washed over her. The sight of her father, a man who had always been her rock, now appeared fragile under the burden of their shared sorrow. His hair, once dark and thick, had begun to show strands of silver, and lines etched into his face spoke of sleepless nights and unrelenting worry. Yeah, I'm fine, she replied, though the tremor in her voice belied her words. I just found this. She held up the diary, the pages still slightly yellowed, the ink faded in places but legible enough to reveal Emma's thoughts. The name alone felt like a ghost whispering from the pages, summoning memories of laughter shared, secrets exchanged, and a friendship that had been cut tragically short. Robert stepped closer, curiosity etched on his face. As he examined the diary, a flicker of recognition flashed in his eyes. Emma's, he asked quietly. I didn't know they had kept it. I thought. He hesitated, the unspoken words hanging heavy between them. The thought of Emma's parents, still grappling with their loss, was a reminder of the pain that had never truly dissipated. The community had tried to move on, but for those who loved her, the wound remained raw. Lily nodded, unable to find her voice. Her heart raced as she considered the revelations that might lie within those pages, the truths hidden beneath layers of ink and emotion. I think it might help us understand what happened to her, she said, her determination igniting like a spark in the dark. Emma wrote about Jake. She was scared of him. Robert's brow furrowed, his protective instincts surging to the forefront. We need to be careful, Lily. If Jake is involved, he could be dangerous. The concern in his voice was palpable, a father's instinct to shield his daughter from harm clashing with the urgency of their quest for answers. I know, she replied, her voice steadier now, fueled by a mix of fear and resolve. But we can't keep pretending like this never happened. Not anymore. The words hung in the air, charged with an urgency that made her pulse race. The attic, with its dusty relics of the past, felt like a sanctuary where the truth could finally be unearthed. She needed to know, and she needed to bring Emma's story to light. With a reluctant nod, Robert stepped back, glancing around the attic as if searching for reassurance. Okay, let's read it together. They settled onto an old moth-eaten rug, the scent of dust and memories swirling around them like an embrace. Lily opened the diary, the spine creaking softly, and began to read aloud, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. Dear Diary, she began, her heart pounding in rhythm with the words. I don't know why, but I feel like something is off. Jake hasn't been himself lately. He's been more aggressive, I guess. It's hard to explain. I want to believe he's still the brother I grew up with, but sometimes I see this look in his eyes, like he's angry or something, and I get scared. As she read, Robert shifted beside her, the tension palpable. He always had a temper, he murmured, more to himself than to Lily. But this is different. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, a chilling acknowledgement of the darkness that had seeped into Emma's life. Lily pressed on, turning the fragile pages with care, as if they were made of glass. He makes jokes that don't feel like jokes anymore. I'm worried about him, but I'm also worried about me. I don't know how to talk to him. What if he gets mad? The fear in Emma's words struck a chord deep within Lily, echoing her own fears from that summer long ago. She could almost feel Emma's presence in the attic, a bittersweet reminder of the vibrancy that had been snuffed out too soon. Keep going, Robert urged, his voice low, as if afraid to break the spell of Emma's words. Lily continued to read, her eyes skimming over the entries that chronicled Emma's growing unease. Days turned into weeks, and the tone of the diary shifted, the carefree spirit of her friend giving way to anxiety, loneliness, and a sense of impending danger. Dear Diary, she read, I told Lily I was worried about Jake, but I didn't tell her everything. I don't want to scare her. She deserves to be happy, and I can't ruin that for her. But I feel like I'm losing control. Sometimes I think I'm imagining things, but I can't shake this feeling that Jake is hiding something. Each word dripped with emotion, the weight of Emma's stroke palpable in the silence that enveloped them. As the final words washed over them, silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating. The attic felt smaller, the shadows deeper, as the weight of Emma's fears settled over them like a heavy shroud. Lily's heart raced, a mix of anger and sorrow churning within her. Emma had tried to reach out, to warn them, but had been met with silence and disbelief. The guilt gnawed at Lily's insides like a ravenous beast. What do we do now? Robert finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile peace of the moment. Lily looked at him, her resolve hardening into something tangible. We confront Jake. We have to show him this. He can't hide behind the past anymore. Emma deserves justice. The words felt like a battle cry, echoing in her chest as adrenaline surged through her veins. Robert's expression shifted, a blend of pride and concern flickering across his features. You're right, but we'll need to approach this carefully. We don't know how he'll react. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture betraying his own anxiety. The thought of Jake, unpredictable and volatile, sent a shiver down Lily's spine. I don't care, Lily replied fiercely, the fire of her determination igniting anew. I can't keep living with this guilt. If I had done something, anything back then, maybe Emma would still be here. Maybe... Lily, Robert interrupted, his voice firm yet compassionate. It's not your fault. You were just a kid. You did what you could. His gaze was steady, seeking to reassure her, but the truth was a bitter pill to swallow. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she blinked them away, unwilling to let despair cloud her vision. I can't just forget about her, Dad. She was my best friend. I owe it to her to find out what happened, and if Jake is involved, he needs to pay. The conviction in her voice solidified her purpose, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. The tension in the attic shifted, solidifying around them like a dark cloud. Robert's expression softened as he met her gaze, the bond between them stronger than ever. Okay, we'll do this together, but we have to be smart about it. I'll reach out to some contacts, people who can help us gather information quietly. Lily nodded, a mixture of gratitude and trepidation swirling in her chest. She understood the risks, the potential for danger, but the thought of confronting Jake, of finally putting the pieces together, propelled her forward. It was time to unearth the truth, and she would stop at nothing to honor Emma's memory. As they made their way down the creaking attic stairs, the diary tucked safely under Lily's arm, a sense of purpose enveloped her. The summer of 2011 felt like a distant memory, but now the shadows of that time resurfaced with an urgency that could no longer be ignored. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the floorboards as they descended. Outside, the world continued to turn, oblivious to the turmoil that lay beneath the surface. But for Lily, the quest for justice had only just begun, and the echoes of Emma's voice would guide her every step. The attic door creaked as it swung shut behind them, sealing away the past for the moment. The weight of the diary felt reassuring in her grasp, a connection to Emma that she would not let slip away. With each step into the fading light, Lily felt the resolve harden within her, a promise to herself and to Emma that she would uncover the truth no matter the cost. The attic was dim, the small window at the far end casting a slant of light that barely illuminated the dust motes swirling in the stale air. Lily sat cross-legged on the worn wooden floorboards, the diary resting on her lap like a fragile treasure. The musty scent of age enveloped her, mingling with the faint aroma of cedar wood. She could hear the distant hum of her father's voice as he worked in the living room, the sound a tether to the present while she delved deeper into the past. With each page she turned, the inked words seemed to breathe life into Emma, and Lily felt as if her friend was right there beside her, whispering her fears and dreams. The entries began with the innocent musings of a 14-year-old girl, filled with sketches of flowers and notes about crushes. But as the days progressed, the tone shifted. Lily's heart raced as she read about Emma's growing unease. "Jake has been acting weird," one entry said, the letters nearly trembling on the page. "I don't know how to explain it, but he just seems different. Sometimes I feel like he's watching me, like he knows something I don't." Lily's throat tightened. She had always thought of Jake as just an older brother, someone who was a bit rough around the edges but ultimately harmless. The idea that he could have harbored darker secrets sent chills crawling up her spine. Her fingers brushed against the edge of the diary, tracing the delicate curves of Emma's handwriting, as if trying to glean strength from her words. She flipped to another entry, her breath hitching in her throat. "I had a nightmare last night. I dreamt that I was trapped in a room, and Jake was trying to get in. I woke up screaming. Mom thought I was just having a bad dream. I don't think she understands." A tremor ran through Lily. She could almost hear Emma's voice, bright and cheerful, yet now laced with an undercurrent of fear. The threads of their childhood friendship felt frayed, unraveling with every revelation. What had happened to Emma that night? Suddenly, a loud creak echoed through the attic, pulling her from her reverie. Lily glanced toward the attic door, her heart pounding in her chest. "Dad," she called softly, her voice barely rising above a whisper. There was no answer, only the persistent sound of her own breathing, quickening as unease settled in. She shook her head, trying to dispel the shadows of doubt that danced at the edges of her mind. It was just the house settling, she reassured herself, but the fear that had lain dormant stirred again, whispering of dark corners and hidden truths. With a deep breath, she returned to the diary, determined to uncover more. The words blurred as she skimmed through the entries, her eyes racing over the ink. "I think I'm going to tell Lily," one of the latest entries read. "I don't know if it will help, but I can't keep this to myself anymore. I need to tell someone I trust." Lily's pulse quickened. Had Emma planned to confide in her? What had held her back? The diary was a window into Emma's thoughts, yet it felt like a barrier separating Lily from the answers she desperately sought. As she flipped to the last few pages, a wave of dread washed over her. They were blank, untouched, as if the words had been lost in the void of time. She felt a pang of frustration, a sense of urgency that twisted in her gut. Lily pressed her palm against the diary, an unspoken plea for guidance. "Please, Emma," she murmured, "help me understand." Just then, a loud knock on the attic door startled her. "Lily, it's me," her father's voice broke through the silence. "Can I come in?" "Yeah, Dad," she called back, quickly tucking the diary beneath her. The door creaked open, and Robert Thompson stepped inside, the light catching the worry etched on his face. "What are you doing up here?" he asked, glancing around the cramped space, his eyes settling on the box that had contained the diary. "I found Emma's diary," Lily replied, her voice steady despite the tempest of emotions swirling within her. "I think it can help us figure out what happened to her." Robert's brow furrowed as he took a seat beside her, the floorboards groaning beneath his weight. He ran a hand through his graying hair, a gesture that spoke of the years spent grappling with the pain of loss. "Did you find anything useful?" Lily hesitated, debating whether to share the unsettling entries about Jake. "She mentioned feeling scared of him," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly. She thought he was acting strange before she disappeared. The air between them thickened, and Robert's expression darkened. "I never wanted to believe that about Jake," he admitted, his voice low. "He's just a kid himself, you know." But his words trailed off, the weight of their shared grief hanging heavy in the air. "But we can't ignore the signs," Lily finished for him, her determination sharpening. "If there's even a chance he knows something, we have to confront him." Robert nodded slowly, the lines on his face deepening. "You're right, but we need to be careful. If Jake is involved, we don't know how he might react. It's been 12 years, and I've seen how people can change." Lily swallowed hard, the reality of their task settling in. The thrill of discovery was quickly overshadowed by the chilling prospect of facing Jake. "I just want to find Emma, Dad. I can't let her memory fade away." Robert sighed, a mixture of pride and worry in his gaze. "I know, sweetie. You're brave. But we'll need a plan. We can't go in blind." Lily felt a surge of gratitude for her father's support, yet a gnawing fear lingered at the back of her mind. She knew they had to tread carefully, but the thought of Jake's potential involvement sent anxiety coursing through her veins. "Let's head to the station," Robert finally suggested, rising to his feet. "We can gather some information on Jake. Maybe there are records or reports we can look into." Lily nodded, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and dread. "Okay." As they descended the narrow attic stairs, the air grew cooler, the warmth of the sun fading behind the clouds outside. The house felt different now, as if the walls themselves held secrets that echoed through the silence. In the living room, sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust particles that danced like tiny stars in the air. Lily felt a flicker of hope amidst the darkness, the desire for justice igniting a fire within her. Emma's story was not over. She would make sure of it. Together, they stepped into the world outside, the weight of the past pressing on their shoulders as they prepared to confront the shadows that lingered in their small town. Each step felt heavy, like a march toward an uncertain destiny. But for Lily, the promise of truth lay ahead, a beacon guiding her through the darkness. She would not let Emma's voice be silenced any longer. The sunlight filtered weakly through the attic's small, grimy window, casting a faint glow over the dust motes dancing in the stagnant air. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, the diary resting open in her lap as she absorbed the weight of the words written in Emma's delicate hand. Each entry felt like a thread unraveling from the fabric of the past, pulling her deeper into the tapestry of her friend's fears. She could almost hear Emma's laughter echoing in her mind, bright and carefree, a stark contrast to the anxiety that now gripped her. Reading about Jake's unsettling behavior had ignited a spark of determination within her. She needed to confront the memories that had long been buried beneath layers of grief and fear. The attic, once a place of childhood imagination, now felt like a crypt holding secrets that had festered for far too long. As she turned the fragile pages, a chill crept up her spine. Emma's last few entries were filled with a palpable sense of dread. "Jake has been acting weird again," one read. "He keeps staring at me in a way that makes me uncomfortable. I can't shake this feeling that he's hiding something." The raw vulnerability in Emma's words struck Lily like a physical blow. How could she have missed these signs back then? It felt as though each sentence was a plea for help that went unheard. Lily sat back against the wall, her heart racing as she thought about Jake. The boy who had once been a quiet but harmless presence in their lives now loomed large in her mind, transformed into a figure shrouded in suspicion. She could still recall his smirk, the way it had twisted into something unsettling the last time they had met at the community center. He had been older then, more confident, and the playful innocence of their childhood games had faded into something darker. "Lily, are you okay?" Robert's voice, thick with concern, interrupted her thoughts. He stepped into the attic, the creaking floorboards announcing his arrival. His brow was furrowed, a reflection of the worry etched across his face. "I found Emma's diary," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile connections she felt to her lost friend. "You need to read this." He moved closer, glancing at the open pages, his expression shifting from concern to a solemn understanding. Robert took a seat beside her, the weight of 12 years of unanswered questions settling heavily in the air around them. "What does it say?" he asked, his voice steady yet tinged with apprehension. Lily read aloud the entries that spoke of Emma's growing unease, each word laced with urgency. As she recounted the details, she could see the emotions flicker across her father's face. Regret, sorrow, and a hint of anger at the shadows of their past. "I think Jake knows something, Dad. We need to talk to him," she concluded, her heart racing at the prospect of digging deeper into the darkness that had engulfed their lives. Robert let out a long breath, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "I've been thinking about him too. After Emma disappeared, I always felt like there was more to that story." His voice was weighted with memories, the kind that lingered like ghosts. "But we have to be careful, Lily. Jake has a reputation now. He's not the same boy we once knew." "Neither are we," Lily replied, her determination hardening. "Emma deserves justice. We can't let fear keep us from finding out what happened to her." Robert nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing in thought. "All right, let's approach this carefully. We'll need to gather more information before confronting him. I can reach out to some of my contacts at the precinct. They might have more insight into Jake's behavior since everything happened." Lily felt a rush of gratitude mixed with anxiety. She had expected her father to hesitate, to shield her from the potential dangers of pursuing this path. But instead, he was ready to stand by her side, a silent promise of support that reinforced her resolve. As they descended the attic stairs, the mood shifted. The air felt charged, electric with the weight of their shared purpose. The attic door creaked as Robert pushed it open, revealing the dimly lit hallway of their home. The familiar surroundings, once comforting, now felt like a mere facade, a thin veil hiding the tumultuous world beyond. "Lily," Robert began, his tone serious as they reached the living room, "I want you to understand that digging into this could bring up things we're not ready to face. It could put us in danger." "I know, Dad," she replied, her voice steady, "but if we don't try, then Emma's story will remain unfinished. I can't let that happen." Her words hung in the air, an unyielding declaration that resonated with both fear and hope. Robert met her gaze, searching for uncertainty, but finding only determination. "All right then, let's do this together." The following days felt like a blur of frantic activity. Lily and Robert meticulously pieced together the fragments of Emma's life as they prepared for the encounter with Jake. They spoke to neighbors and friends, gathering snippets of information about him, trying to construct a picture of the boy who had transformed into a man. Jake had become a shadow lurking in the background of Crestwood, whispered about in hushed tones. Rumors abounded, stories of erratic behavior, run-ins with the law, and a growing distance from the community he once belonged to. Lily felt a tightening in her chest with each new revelation, the weight of the past pressing down on her like a heavy shroud. One evening, while Robert was busy on the phone with a colleague, Lily grabbed her laptop and began to search for any recent news articles about Jake. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she scoured the internet, hoping to uncover a clue that might lead them closer to the truth. To her surprise, she stumbled upon a small article dated just weeks prior. It detailed an incident involving Jake, a confrontation outside a local bar that had left him bloodied and bruised, along with a not-so-subtle mention of a fight with another patron. Lily's heart raced as she read the details. The article referred to Jake as troubled and volatile, descriptors that echoed the concerns Emma had expressed in her diary. She felt a mix of dread and determination. Perhaps this was the catalyst they needed to finally confront him. "Dad!" Lily called, her voice echoing through the house. Robert emerged from his office, his brow raised in inquiry. "You need to see this." She turned the laptop toward him, her finger hovering over the screen as she highlighted the article. Robert's expression darkened as he read. "This is troubling," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "We have to be cautious. If he's in this kind of state, he might not react well to us questioning him." "Then we should plan for every possible outcome," Lily insisted, her resolve unwavering. "We need to be prepared for anything he might throw at us." Robert sighed, the tension in his shoulders returning. "You're right. We'll need a strategy. I'll call in some backup, just in case." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across their living room, Lily felt a surge of nervous energy. She had spent so long in a world defined by loss, but now, for the first time, she could see a path forward, one that led to answers, to closure, and perhaps to a semblance of peace for Emma's family. The looming confrontation with Jake felt like the eye of a storm, a moment suspended in time before chaos would inevitably follow. But Lily's heart thudded with a fierce hope. She was finally taking a stand, and with each passing moment, she could almost hear Emma's voice urging her on, reminding her that they were not alone in this fight. Tomorrow they would face the shadows together, and for the first time in 12 long years, Lily felt the faintest glimmer of light breaking through the darkness. The late afternoon sun streamed through the dusty attic window, casting long shadows across the wooden floorboards. Lily sat cross-legged amidst a sea of forgotten memories, clinging to the fragile pages of Emma's diary. Each word felt like a haunting echo, reverberating through the silence of the attic, as if Emma's spirit lingered, urging Lily to unravel the truth. The air was thick with the musty scent of old books and faded photographs, each item a relic of a time before the world had turned dark. As Lily flipped through the diary, her heart raced. Emma's handwriting, once flowing and carefree, had grown jagged and erratic as her fears deepened. The entries had begun innocently enough, with snippets of teenage excitement about summer plans and dreams of high school dances. But as the days passed in the diary, a sense of foreboding crept in, like an unwelcome guest. "Lily, I've been thinking about Jake," one entry read. "He's been acting weird lately, like he's hiding something. I don't know if I should talk to you about this, but it's been bothering me." Chills raced down Lily's spine. Jake, Emma's older brother, had always been the quiet, brooding type, but now his shadow loomed larger in her mind. The more she read, the more she felt the weight of Emma's words. She could almost hear her friend's voice, tinged with fear and uncertainty. It was as if Emma had known something was coming, a darkness that would swallow her whole. With a determined breath, Lily placed the diary beside her and reached for her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she scrolled through her contacts. She had to talk to her father, Robert. He had been there through it all, a steadfast figure in the storm of their lives. Perhaps together they could finally confront the truth about Jake. "Dad." Lily's voice wavered when he answered, but the urgency in her tone quickly steadied her. "Can we meet? It's important." "Of course, sweetheart. Where?" "Let's meet at the park by the fountain. I'll be there in 20 minutes." As she tucked the diary safely into her backpack, a sense of purpose surged within her. The attic, once a refuge of nostalgia, had transformed into a battleground of unresolved feelings and longing. She took one last look around, noticing the remnants of her childhood, the dusty toys and old clothes that had been left behind. It all felt so far away, yet so close, as if a single choice could bridge the gap between then and now. The walk to the park was a blur of thoughts, each step heavy with memories. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over Crestwood, which felt more like a stranger than the home she once knew. The laughter of children playing nearby echoed in the air, a stark contrast to the weight in her heart. When she reached the fountain, Robert was already waiting, his broad shoulders hunched with worry. The lines on his face deepened as he saw the look in Lily's eyes. She could tell he sensed the urgency, the familiar tension that accompanied conversations about Emma. "Hey, kiddo, what's going on?" he asked, kneeling down to her level. Lily took a deep breath, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I found Emma's diary in the attic. She wrote about Jake, how he was acting strange before she disappeared. I think we need to talk to him." Robert's expression shifted from concern to something darker, a flicker of recognition crossing his eyes. "Jake, are you sure that's a good idea? He's been through a lot too. You know that." "I know, Dad, but we can't ignore this. Emma trusted me, and I owe it to her to find out what really happened." Her voice quivered with emotion, the weight of her conviction pressing down on her. Robert hesitated, weighing the gravity of her words. "All right, if you're sure you want to do this, we'll need to be careful. We don't know how he'll react." As they walked together along the winding path of the park, anxiety churned in Lily's stomach. The trees whispered secrets in the light breeze, their leaves rustling softly, as if warning her of the confrontation ahead. She felt both exhilarated and terrified, the thrill of possible answers mingling with the fear of what those answers might reveal. When they arrived at Jake's house, an oppressive silence hung in the air, a stark contrast to the vibrant life of the park they had just left behind. Robert knocked on the door firmly, and they waited, the sound echoing ominously in the stillness. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing Jake, his expression unreadable. "Hey, what's up?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly, as if he had been caught off guard. Lily's heart raced as she stepped forward, the moment feeling surreal. "We need to talk, Jake. It's about Emma." At the mention of his sister's name, Jake's demeanor shifted. The casualness melted away, replaced by a guarded tension. "What do you want to know?" Robert took the lead, his authoritative voice steady. "We want to understand what happened that night, Jake. Lily found some things in Emma's diary that concern us." Jake's jaw tightened, and for a moment he seemed to wrestle with his thoughts. "I don't know what you expect me to say. Emma, she was just a kid. I didn't have anything to do with it." Lily felt a wave of frustration and sorrow crash over her. "But you were the last person to see her. You must know something. Emma was scared of you, Jake. Why?" The vulnerability in her voice cut through the tension like a knife, and for a fleeting moment, Lily thought she saw a flicker of something in Jake's eyes. Fear, remorse, or perhaps a deeper pain. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by a hardened exterior. "I didn't mean to scare her," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was just going through stuff. I didn't know she was feeling that way." "Stuff," Robert pressed, his frustration evident. "You have to understand how serious this is. We're trying to find answers, answers that could help us understand what happened to Emma." Jake's posture shifted, and he glanced away, as if the weight of the conversation was too much to bear. "I don't know what you want from me. I was trying to protect her in my own way. I thought she'd be safe." Silence enveloped them, heavy and suffocating. Lily's heart ached at the sight of Jake, a boy lost in his own turmoil, yet the memories of Emma's fear echoed in her mind. "You didn't protect her, Jake. You let her down. If you know something, anything, please, just tell us. We deserve to know." Jake's eyes flicked back to hers, a storm of emotions swirling within them. "You don't understand. I was scared too. I thought things would get better. Then she just disappeared." The raw pain in his voice resonated deep within Lily, and for a moment she felt the walls between them begin to crumble. "But we can't move forward without the truth. What really happened that night?" He hesitated, his brow furrowing, as if battling with his own demons. "I don't know. I thought I heard her talking to someone. I thought it was just a friend, but then it got quiet." "Who?" Robert demanded, urgency bleeding into his tone. "Who was she talking to?" "I don't know," Jake snapped, his frustration boiling over. "I didn't see anything. I just heard her voice. Then I went to check on her, and she was gone." The weight of his words hung in the air like a dark cloud, heavy with the burden of unfulfilled promises and shattered lives. Lily's breath quickened as she realized they were standing on the precipice of something monumental, a truth that both terrified and exhilarated her. "Jake," she said softly, her voice steadying, "if you know anything at all, please don't keep it to yourself. Emma deserves justice, and so do you." Jake's gaze dropped to the ground, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I wish I could help you, but I don't know how. I just want to forget." "We can't forget," Lily replied, her heart aching with empathy. "We have to find a way to remember her, to honor her. Please help us do that." For a long moment, Jake stared at her, the weight of years pressing down on his conscience. And then with a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "There was someone who used to come around. I didn't like it. I thought they were trouble, but I didn't think—" "What do you mean?" Robert pressed, the urgency in his voice cutting through the heaviness. "Just that. I think they might have been involved. Emma wasn't the only one scared. I was too, but I didn't know how to stop it." A chill swept through the air and Lily's heart raced. "Who? Jake? Who was it?" But before Jake could respond, a sharp noise echoed from inside the house, a sudden disturbance that shattered the moment. He turned sharply, his face pale, and Lily felt a deep sense of foreboding. "We need to go," he said abruptly, retreating into the shadows of the doorway. "Wait!" Lily called, desperation clawing at her throat. But he was already gone, leaving only the lingering unease in his wake. The air was thick with uncertainty as Lily stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. She had glimpsed a fracture in Jake's armor, a crack that hinted at the truth hiding beneath the surface. But just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished, like mist dissipating in the morning sun. Lily, Robert's voice broke through her thoughts. We need to regroup. This isn't over. As they walked away from Jake's house, the shadows of the past loomed larger than ever, the weight of Emma's disappearance pressing down on both of them. Lily felt a mix of anger and determination surging within her. The truth was out there, a thread waiting to be pulled, and she would not stop until she unraveled the mystery that had haunted her for 12 long years. Emma deserved justice, and Lily was ready to fight for it.